Welcome back to Franco Fridays. Today I've got a full moon release for 1987's Angel of Death, also known as Commando Mengele. I think that was Commando Mengele was actually the description that Franco used when I think he wrote the script. This is about Joseph Mengele, who was a doctor for the Nazis, and he performed all kinds of horrific experiments on Jews, everyone else, women, children, horrible, horrible atrocities. But he escaped after the war and was in hiding in various parts of South America. This film portrays that story. The interesting thing about this film is, and it's marketed as a Jess Franco film, is that I don't think this is a Jess Franco film. So we're kind of cheating today. Um, the director was Andrea Bianchi, who was better known to have directed Burial Ground. And in researching this, what I found is that Franco was in conflict of two films with the producers of this film, which I think is a French group. And he wanted to do a film about Mengele, but it was more about Mengele and his interactions with the South American locals. And once the locals realize who the Mengele is, then there becomes that conflict. Whereas the French producers wanted to create an action movie. And so Franco, as far as I understand how this works, Franco wrote the script and then bowed out of the actual production, which is why when you watch the film, it's clear to me that this is not a Franco film. It has none of the touches of Franco. So I believe that Andrea Bianchi directed it. I looked in the volume 2 of the Stephen Thrower book, which is a if you don't have those books on Franco by Thrower, those are the definitive books on Franco. It's a 2 volume series, and he doesn't even cover this film. So that leads me to believe that this is not a Franco film. That's neither here nor there. We'll still talk about it because I do think that Franco had some initial involvement, although the end product is certainly, I don't think, is his. Uh, yeah, this is an action film basically about some Jewish bounty hunters that are hired to hunt down Mengele. It's a straight up action film. It has none of the sleaze or cheesecake that we would, or really any of the kind of the artful shot design that we've come to expect from Franco. This is kind of just a straight up B movie action film, and it's not a particularly good one, to be honest with you. Most of the action scenes and fight scenes between the bounty hunters when they eventually go after Mengele and Mengele's group that's protecting him is some of the shots are done in slow motion, which to me is a dead giveaway that you don't really have either. You don't have talented stuntmen, you don't have good acting sequences or martial arts or fighting sequences, and so when you do this slow motion, it looks bad. It just doesn't look very good, and that's what you get is a lot of the action sequences are slowed down into this slow motion scene where some guy will do a kick and kick the guy into a pool, which I think is just a form of cheating. Basically, it to me it's telegraphing that what we've got is a really bad action movie here. I will say this: Howard Vernon plays Dr. Mengele, and if they'd have spent more time with him, we would have had a much better movie. Unfortunately, his presence is only really focused on, say, in the last 30 minutes. What we really get in the first hour is uh, Antonio Mayans, who's kind of always a fixture in Franco films, and Jack Taylor are kind of orchestrating the hunt for Mengele, and they've got with them this lady named Suzanne, Eva actually. Uh, she's Eva, but her name is actually Suzanne Andrews, and she just brings the movie down to. I mean, she's a horrible actress. Horrible. You have to see it to believe it. Um, and I don't think she had any screen credits. Maybe she had this one on IMDb. There was a couple more, but she really torpedoes the movie. Uh, Noticeably absent is Lena Romay. I think if they'd have had Lena Romay in this alongside of Antonio Mayans and Jack Taylor, that would have been much more interesting first hour of the film. But we didn't get that. So we get a lot of dialogue between Jack Taylor and Antonio Mayans as they prepare to go to South America to hunt down Mengele. And then you've got a lot of Eva Suzanne Andrews, who just her delivery is just so wooden and bad. I mean, it's cringy. It's just cringeworthy. The other thing you're missing from this is the musical score of Franco and Daniel White. You know, normally you get very sophisticated jazz music or some blend of modern European or African sounds intermingled with jazz. A lot of complex music that just don't get that here. You get a shitty '80s keyboard track that's just it's not very. It's just like a Casio keyboard musical score. Um, so yeah, the music is not good in this. Christopher Mitchum, who's of course Robert Mitchum's son, he's got a role in this, and he's not great. I mean, he's part of the Mengele group, and I mean, he's kind of running around with this huge mullet. It's very '80s, very dated, but he's this is probably one of his worst acting roles, I think. So there's not a lot, unfortunately. As you can tell, I don't. There's not a lot to recommend with Angel of Death. It's kind of hard to recommend the release as well because it doesn't have any special features. The picture quality, sound quality is good. I have no complaints about that. It's pristine. But, you know, it's just a bare bones full moon release. And it's really false advertising. This is really an Andrea Bianchi film. And if you want to watch an Andrea Bianchi film, stick to Burial Ground. I think skip this. I give this a 5 out of 10. Um, it's not it's bad. I probably should just go to 4 out of 10. I mean, I think I'm being nice with a 5 out of 10. It's more like a 4 out of 10. Uh, there's not a whole lot of redeeming features other than you get to see Jack Taylor kind of in a Rambo-ish action type role, which I've never seen him do that before, and he looks a little out of place, kind of playing a war hero action guy. It was funny. There was a scene where he's running down a hill. He'd shot some guy and he's running down a hill, and I thought for sure, man, he was going to fall. I mean, he just doesn't he doesn't give you the impression that he's got his that he's very athletic. I guess is the best way to describe it. So yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of disappointing. Angel of Death, can't recommend it. But we do have another Franco film that we will be talking about next week, next Friday, which I think is a little bit better than this one. It's also a full moon release, and that is I believe that's Night of the Eagles. Yeah. So I'll talk about that one next week. But as for now, thanks for watching, and I think give this one a pass.